Hey, all you folks. Welcome to Kelly's Chronicles, my channel where I sit down with people who are living everyday lives and listen to their extraordinary stories hidden behind normal, quiet existences. Because here we believe those lives are the most important and need to be acknowledged, heard, and celebrated as to not be forgotten by the passage of time. Hope all out there had a wonderful week. Holiday season is over. New Year's is past, going to the gym, working out, and staying away from the sweets. We came back from our trip to Idaho, and we're just back in the swing of things. And how was your week this week?
It was, busy, I guess you'd say. I had to go I had a sonogram about, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and they saw a problem with one of the valves in my heart, and so we went in, on Thursday and, a, angiogram. Went in through my wrist, got a little tiny scar right there, and, went through there, and they went into my heart, and, they found a blockage in the right coronary artery, the old RCA widowmaker, and but my body had produced veins around the blockage. So instead of having a heart attack, I just didn't have a
Built
heart
an
attack.
auxiliary
I was only a
highway.
little discomfort. And so what they're going to do is I'm going to go back in February, about middle of February, and they're purchasing a balloon. And what they do is they I guess they put a little hole in the clot, and then they stick this balloon in there and inflate it and open it up, but it's like $5,000 thing. So they didn't order it until I was sure that that was what they would need. So I'm still here. I mean, like they say, old sailors never die. They just smell that way. Right.
That's
Uh,
great.
yeah.
The old hardy sailors, they
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
go on and on
So,
and on. I love it. I mean, remember,
yeah.
you're supposed to
And
live to be 120 years old, okay? So,
there we go. Yeah. If I get up that, yeah, and I'm still like I am now, able to take care of myself and feed myself and walk, and
yeah,
I don't care how I will live forever. I don't,
there you go.
I'm in no hurry to die. I mean,
Exactly.
I don't really have a fear of death 'cause I've faced it before, but I would prefer to be here to see my grandchildren and to be around you and my friends, and I've got a bucket list, a big
You
one.
do.
And I haven't even started on it yet.
Finish it, Dad.
I've been too busy building houses and stuff. I need to,
I know.
eh, taking care of things, and maybe here in a little bit we can start doing some bucket list stuff,
There you go.
and going back to Europe and taking Emily to Hawaii and to Asia, places I've been, and let her see it for herself.
Heck yeah.
Anyway.
That's,
Yeah, that was my week. It kinda was the defining part of the week was being in the hospital because we spent 8 hours waiting, well, 6 hours, 6.5 hours waiting to go into surgery. Emily sitting in
yeah,
a
you said it
chair,
was a
and I'm
long
laying
time.
on the bed. I'm laying on the bed in my little gown with no back for 6.5 hours until they
Just as long as
finally
you
got
don't
us
go.
finally got us into surgery. The surgery only
Yeah.
took 45 minutes, boom, in and out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes the wait is longer than anything else at the hospital.
yeah,
Gotta wait.
yeah, at least so you wanted to
Um,
start with pictures, right?
yes, let's go eat some more
Here's a good one.
pictures.
This handsome young man
Oh,
is
look at
me at about 3, and I had really good teeth when I was a kid, and then I grew up, and this is I think this I'm a little younger in this picture. I think I'm like maybe 6 months to a year younger in this picture. And then on the other side is me and dad. Dad was
What you
still in the
got?
Marine Corps here, still has his Marine uniform, and, that's proof that I was born a Marine. Okay, and then, we're gonna talk later about a float trip in Wisconsin. So I have a picture of the float trip. I'll show that when I tell the story, and, yeah.
Sounds great. So
Anyway, that
you
was it. And then some that I found, random pictures.
I love random picture. We love random pictures, so that'll be
Okay.
perfect. So that'll be great, and we'll just kinda add them into the story, but you had mentioned something about how you used to go ice fishing, so we could just start there and talk about your ice fishing adventures.
Okay. Well, you have to, remember, or that this is maybe new knowledge for you, is that Truax Air Force Base in Wisconsin was built on a swamp. It was just a big marsh, and the Air Force went in there and hauled in a bunch of dirt, but built a Air Force base, and they built in order to keep it dry, they put in a series of canals, and they had one canal, the main canal was right down at the end of the runway, and it was about 20 feet wide and I think about 6 feet deep, and it went for miles because it went out
Wow.
and emptied into you have to understand that the capital of Wisconsin, Madison, the Capitol building is on an isthmus between 2 big lakes, Lake Mendota and Lake Monona, and,
Mm,
they would freeze solid in the winter, and, beautiful, though, I mean, just gorgeous place, just trees, surrounded by trees, and lake is blue, and, oh, it's just really nice. Anyway, canal emptied out into Lake Mendota, I believe, and it might have been Monona. I'd have to go look on a map. It was one of the big lakes there that the capital was in the middle of, and, I would skate down in the wintertime, they would freeze solid, and I would skate down these canals to the lake, and I had a little sled, and I had my fishing stuff on there. I go down and yeah, if you don't have a if you have an ice drill, you drill a hole with your ice but I had a spud, which is just a steel bar with a pointed end. I'd spud a hole in
yeah.
the ice about a foot in diameter, and ice is usually about a foot deep. Um,
Wow.
I'd, you know, catch yellow perch, basically. Sometimes I would luck out and get a pike, but most of the time it's yellow perch. And I'd take they bring them up from the hole in the ice and throw them on the ice, and they freeze instantly. Uh,
Wow.
you didn't have to have a stringer. I just stay out there. I'd stay out in the lake until I got miserable, and I go head back. And usually an hour or two out there if it was like 15 below zero or something. Didn't want to spend too much time out there. So,
Yeah.
so anyway, I would, and kind of an aside, the canal ran by the state the state criminal, I guess, no, criminal, yeah, maybe criminal mental hospital for the criminally insane. And
Okay.
there was a guy that uh, in Wisconsin that was a cannibal, and he would kill and eat people. He'd dig bodies up, and he was sick. He was so they didn't they he could have been executed because he'd murdered several people, but they put him in that hospital, and I'd skate by, I'd skate by and I said, "Geez, I hope he's not looking at me." Like, "Oh, there's dinner."
Do you know the name of this, serial killer?
Geez,
Sounds like Ed Gein.
Ed
Gein.
Gein. Yeah, it's
Ed
him.
Gein. Ed
That's
Gein.
him. He was in that hospital. I think he died in there, yeah,
I
he
think
probably
he
did.
did.
They
I watch a lot of serial killer files, and I'm pretty sometimes they kinda
yeah.
run together, so,
No, Ed Gaines.
um,
Yeah, that was him.
yeah.
He's, lived up in some little town up in Wisconsin somewhere.
Plainfield.
There you go. Wow, you're on top
Oh,
of it. I like that.
yeah.
I like informed people, even if it is about grotesque,
Hey,
weird, cannibalistic wacko,
well,
'cause it was right on that canal. I mean, it was, like, maybe 100 yards off that canal, and you could see
yeah.
people up in the windows, and I'd say, "I hope Ed's not looking at me and licking his lips," you know? It
Well,
was
that's
it
that's
was
an interesting story that you, I think I remember you mentioning that you had lived really close to, where Ed Gein was
him.
hospitalized
Yeah,
and where he was hospitalized and imprisoned. So I was like,
yeah.
"Oh, that's kind of a cool story. I'm glad you told that." And then it's kinda crazy, but, you had mentioned something about how which I didn't actually realize this, when winter would come to Wisconsin, the people would practically move out onto the ice and
Yeah.
build.
That was I talked about Lake Winnebago up
Uh-huh.
by Oshkosh in Green Bay. There's a huge lake up there, and in the wintertime, when the ice gets about 6 or 8 inches thick where you can drive out your car out there, they would go out on the ice and they would I'm not exaggerating, they would survey roads, they'd lay out streets, put up street signs, they would bring electricity out there, and, then people would move their ice shanties out there on the ice. And the reason you have an ice shanty is to block the light. You want this ice shanty to be light proof or where there's no windows or anything. And the reason for that is because if you're out there during the day and you're in a dark ice shanty, the light comes in all around your ice shanty and shines down in the water, and you look through your hole that you've drilled in the ice, and you can see fish 200 feet down because the water is real clear, and the fish are pretty good size, like pound and a half for a yellow perch, and then there's all kinds of pikes and carp and everything else in that. And they're down there. You got your bait down there 100 feet down, and they're over looking at it, biting on it. You can see that through the ice. It's amazing. And of course, you get out, they get all these fishermen put their shanties out there on these streets. They have an address, and probably now they probably got it's probably more than what they had because they got cell phones now. I don't think they had telephones back in the '60s, but they go out there, and of course they got their beer coolers, and they got porta potties, and I mean, it's like it's town. It's a town, and they stay out there. If they're not working, they're on the ice, period. I mean, these people are hardcore. And it's not just Lake
Wow.
Winnebago. There's a Green Bay is actually a arm of Lake Michigan. Lake Michigan, there's a Door Peninsula that sticks up like a finger out in Lake Michigan, and then between that finger and the mainland is Green Bay, and they are serious in Green Bay. They have a I mean, they have 1,000 people out there or more, and they bring their trucks out there, it's not just they just walk out there, they drive out there 'cause the ice is a foot thick, and they're there all winter, period. They're out there drinking beer and telling stories and catching fish.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that. I
yeah,
mean, we
and
lived
and
up
it's not
in,
just yeah, it's not just Wisconsin. I mean, Michigan, Illinois, all those areas in the upper Midwest where like Minnesota has 10,000 lakes, 10,000 place to go ice fishing, you
yeah,
know, and they love it. It's a way of life.
that's
And
awesome.
so yeah, so
I
that
mean,
was
I remember when we lived in Michigan, because we lived out on the finger of out into Lake Superior on the Keweenaw, which is between Houghton and
right.
Hancock, and I remember in the winter, we could see down to the Keweenaw, and, you would see that they had created a road from Houghton to Hancock, an access road, and you wouldn't have to cross the bridge, and
Yeah.
people would be down there ice skating, and, of course, I'm, like, 9 or 10 wishing I
Yeah.
wanna go ice skating down there.
Yep.
We never did.
Yeah, we didn't do too much that up in Wisconsin or in Michigan when we lived there.
We
It
did.
was we did a little just a little snowmobile and snowman and that sort of stuff, but I didn't really wasn't equipped to go ice fishing. I didn't have any of the ice drills or spuds or anything,
Uh,
and just didn't really get interested in it. I was too busy
really is.
taking care of my family and working on my house, trying to make it a better place to live, so I didn't have time to play. That's that's
Yeah,
for
that's
that's
a
for
little bit
people
more of
who
a
that's for people who don't have places to work on and big families to take care of. The fishing has gotten I don't know, it bores me now. I've been up into Canada, up and on a canoe trip up into Canada, and there were fish. You would throw anything on a wire out in the water, and the fish would bite on it, and you'd have a fish. I mean, instantly. Big walleyes and pike, shad, and all just beautiful, big, beautiful fish. We lived on that canoe trip, we had fish about every day, fried fish,
ah,
and, it was you had to be a total idiot not to catch fish up there, and, I was there, and then I was in Alaska, and the same
yep,
thing, we were in Kodiak, had 5, salmon runs there, and you could go out and then basically catch salmon with your bare hands.
pretty
There were that
much.
many, and,
And they were big salmon.
and then they had king salmon that were like 40 pounds
Yep,
over in by Mill Creek. I didn't, I just so fishing up there. You didn't even they didn't bite. They were coming out of the ocean and heading to spawn. They didn't want
yep,
to eat, and you had to hook the fish with a you could take a treble hook and throw it in the water and reel it in as fast as you could. And you catch them by the tail and the side of their head and the fin. You were actually catching them.
you're
Uh,
capturing them.
you're capturing them. I was up there catching big old halibut and all that stuff, and you get down and go out and catch some little dinky trout, 12 ounces or something. Man, worth it. Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah,
that's and up
yeah,
in
we gotta
Michigan. Just wasn't I didn't want interested. So anyway, go ahead.
yeah, say we're over here just by Lake Gunnersville, which is um just fed by the Tennessee River, and there are fishermen out there all the time.
Yep,
Rain, snow,
yep.
morning,
I don't
night,
get it.
they are out there, dedicated.
I don't get it.
That
Anyway,
every time we pass by, he's like, "I don't get it. I just don't get it." And I'm like, it's the call of the water. I'm telling you what,
I guess, I
it's the
guess.
call of the reel, of the fisherman.
Yeah, I think we got into in the Wisconsin story, we got into my being in air explorers, didn't I?
Had a fun
Okay.
story about tubing when it was really
Yeah,
cold.
yeah, well, that I should explain what the explorers when I was a kid, they had 3 types of these were Boy Scouts. The explorers were like senior scouts. You do your Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts and explorers. And there's 3 kinds of explorers. We call them the greenies. They wore green uniforms and did a lot of camping and archery and, hiking, and they were the hardcore ground pounder infantry of the explorers. Then you had sea explorers, and they are naval type uniforms, wore white uniforms. And I think they had another like a blue uniform that they wore when they weren't wearing their white. Same with they were mainly they would go boating, sailing, and probably scuba diving and stuff like that. Water related stuff that the Navy would do. As a matter of fact, the Navy likes to recruit Sea Scouts because they know how to be a sailor. So, and then there was the Air Explorers, which I was in, and it was aviation orientated. We wore blue uniforms and kind of like Air Force uniforms, and we were mainly into aviation. There was a 326 Fighter Interceptor Squadron was home based in Truex Field, and they sponsored our Explorer post and or squadron. It wasn't a post, Explorer squadron, and we had access to all morale equipment that the Air Force had, all their tents and sleeping bags and shovels and whatever you wanted. And we also had we could rent a bus, not rent a bus, we could borrow a bus, an Air Force blue Air Force bus, and we had an advisor named Ken Berg, who was an airman, incredible guy, dedicated to the explorer and the Boy Scout tradition. Had been I think he was an Eagle Scout, and he loved to go camping. He loved to be around the boys and out in the woods and stuff. And we did all sorts of cool things. About every weekend in the summer, we were out going somewhere, and we went all over Wisconsin. Now, we went up to a jamboree up on the Menominee River, which is between Michigan, Upper Peninsula, and Wisconsin. There's two towns there, Twin Cities, Marinette, Menominee. Went up there to a jamboree. We went to Lake Devil's Lake, beautiful place, and went there and camped out. It was 20 below zero, and we camped out overnight there. Funny story is, we woke up in the morning and Ken said, "Don't touch the tent." And some guy goes, "Bam! Why not?" And it started snowing inside the tent because all of our breath condensed on the inside of the tent. It snowed in there.
It's just like,
Yeah. It was,
"Arr."
and the one thing about Ken was German, and,
Yeah.
he was a Lutheran, and he said, "We'll go camping, but we're gonna go to church on Sunday." And he would take us to these little bitty towns in Wisconsin where they had the old time German Lutheran, uh, congregations, and they would sing these, dirges, German hymns, uh
That's awesome.
yeah, and so I was exposed very much so to the Lutheran tradition, and that actually the Swedes are a lot of
A lot
Lutherans
of
in
them are Lutheran.
Sweden,
Oh,
kinda
yeah.
connected
That's
with my
the
roots there. Plus, I'm
yeah,
half
that's the main
German, so I
religion.
connected that aspect. So I got a taste of what it was like to be a hardcore evangelical Lutheran, and, yeah, we just had a great time. I went on a 10-day canoe trip up into Canada, went 100 miles up into Canada because there's in Ely, Minnesota, which is the outfitters capital for canoe trips. There's hundreds of lakes on the Canadian United States border there, Minnesota and Ontario, and we paddled 10 days up into Canada. And I think I have pictures of, like, you get up about 30 miles up into the lakes, and you hit the Canadian border, and they have a Canadian customs house in the middle of nowhere on this lake, and you gotta go in there and um, we're going into Canada, and they said, "Oh, we have to declare anything." It's like going through a regular customs, inspection. I don't think the Americans there was just Canadians. There was no Americans there I can remember, and, went through there, and, just a great time, and,
Awesome.
yeah, and we had one time we went tubing, and I got a picture. I found this picture. Let's see if I can get it to focus in. Okay,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think you could yeah, you can see the boys there, and we had old inner tubes. They didn't have all these fancy tubes. It was just an inner tube out of a car or a truck, and we were on the Apple River in April. Big mistake. So Ken Berg dropped us off with our tubes, and we were in our bathing suit, and, and he took off with the bus, and he went up a couple of miles up the road and, parked the bus on a bridge so we could see where he was at, and we were gonna float down the river to the bus. And unfortunately, the water was about 40 degrees, 35, 40 degrees, and the air temperature was about 50. and we got in that water, and our lips turned blue, and our teeth started chattering, and we
Mhm.
said, "We're not going to do this." So we
So,
went over, we found a place to get out of the water, and started walking down this country road carrying our inner tubes and our bathing suits. No, and I don't think they had shoes on. I think we were barefoot. Anyway, and we finally walked a couple of miles down the river and found Kinberg and got in a bus.
freezing
And it said,
cold.
"Leaders." It was unusual. And then another thing we did in Air Explorers is there was a place called Camp McCoy. It was an Army National Guard base in central Wisconsin. And Ken made connections with the National Guard, and they allowed us to come on the base and stay in barracks. And we're going to do a basic training exercise, like we're going to be young recruits going in the military. We're going to go to basic training. So went in there, stayed in the barracks, and then we came out, did exercise, and marched around. Just did just a tiny portion of what boot camp is like. And then he said, "Now we're going to do survival training." So on Sunday, that was on Saturday. On Sunday, he issued gunny sacks, which they're like a burlap bag, and they cut
Yeah.
holes for your head and holes for your arms. So there's 3 holes in it. And then they had a belt with a knife on it and a box of matches and a map. And you'd put the gunny sack on, and you would take your map, and you would go out and you would follow the gunny sack. You follow the map course. It wasn't very long, it was only half a mile or so. But it
Mhm.
said, "Go to this tree and turn right." And then out there in the woods, they tied a chicken to a tree, a live chicken. And your job was to go over, cut the head off the chicken, take his feathers off, gut him, and then cook him. And they would
Dang.
come to the advisors. Ken Berg had a couple of assistants on doing this because run the boot camp and everything. And they would come out, make sure you were okay, and make sure that you were cooking the chicken and you weren't eating raw meat, and everything had your fire going. And they kind of told us how to cook the chicken. You put it on a stick and stick it over the fire and everything. That was educational.
They
Yeah. No, that was our survival training, and,
Oh, that's
yeah,
crazy.
that was it. It was just the great fun. I think some of my best memories uh, of being a teenager was being Air
Was
Explorers.
right there.
Awesome. Just awesome time,
But I
and
I
and
l you've said before that a lot of those skills that you learned in Air Explorers probably helped you survive, throughout life, but mainly when you were in combat, when you were
yep,
in the war.
keep my head down. Oh, and
Yeah.
here's an aside, and I wrote this down. I was gonna tell you about this.
Okay.
I had a friend in Air Explorers. Name was Tom Melcher. His dad was a major in the Air Force. He was a chaplain, and he ran the base chapel on Truax Field. And me and Tom Melcher were good buddies in Air Explorers. And about 4 years after I left Wisconsin, I joined the Navy, and I was on a board a ship. And we pulled into Subic Bay in the Philippines, and I'm walking out of the base. I just went through the main gate, which is right between the naval base and the town of Olongapo. And I was walking out, and there was sailors everywhere, and all the sailors had to wear white. They had to wear their whites, and
Yeah.
with a little black handkerchief and the little Dixie cup. And I was in
Yeah.
civilian clothes because I was in Naval Special Forces, so I was authorized to wear civilian clothes go on Liberty. Anyway, I was walking out the gate, and I looked over about 25, 30 feet over to my left side with a group of sailors walking there. And right in the middle of them was Tom Melcher. I am not kidding you. I mean, there was 13,000 sailors in Longport City because there was 2 aircraft carriers in, 1,000 sailors. And this was 4 years after I got left Wisconsin, and there's Tom Melcher. And I went, "Tom, what are you doing?" He said, "Are you in the Navy? What are you crazy?" Oh, it was like a class reunion or
Yeah.
something. It
Man,
was
I bet you
beautiful.
guys were really excited to see each other.
Yeah, it was beautiful. We went out. Of course, you had to go out and have a beer,
Oh,
and had a
yeah, of
beer,
course.
and we talked all night. And then we back then, you had what called Cinderella Liberty. You could had to be back on the boat at midnight, and
Yeah,
we could go to Manila if we wanted to. We didn't care. But those poor
yeah,
old sailors on those ships had to be back at midnight, so we talked until midnight, and we
that's
left,
awesome.
and I never saw him again. He ship pulled out the next day back to
Do you know if he
Vietnam.
survived the war?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's on an aircraft
Yeah.
carrier,
Oh, yeah, true.
like being in Lava
Like
Hot
being
Springs.
like
1,500
vacationing.
you got 5,000 men on this floating city, they even have a McDonald's on board.
Jeez! Wow, I mean,
I'm
that makes
serious.
sense.
So
Crazy. But I
yeah,
mean,
he
these
he
aircraft
survived. We
carriers are
just we just didn't
so
see each
huge.
other again. I mean, that's men. Men don't send each other Christmas cards. They just,
Yeah,
do your
unfortunately.
own
Well, I
thing,
mean,
and
at least we have Facebook
but
nowadays, we
just
can keep
seeing
in
him,
track.
that was so incredible to look
Yeah.
over and see somebody you knew in that crowd. Got me tearing up here.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was that was the I think that made hold on, made it helped me to become a man, to transition from boy to man, and I cherish those times, and wish that I could have met up with some other the other guys, but unfortunately, that wasn't happen. And we just all went our separate ways and joined the service and had families. And that time
Oh, that's
between I was
that
like I was like 16, 17, 16, 17, and then I joined the Navy when I was about 18. I joined the
you
Navy,
were
and
yeah.
so like I said, like 4 years, and I'd been. And to make things, well, complicate things a little bit, because I joined the Navy, went to boot camp in San Diego, and I went to radar school in Great Lakes, Illinois, and then I
You
went
were
on
all
board
over the
ship,
place.
and then I got off the ship and went into beach jumpers, and I was in beach jumpers when I was in the Philippines, for at least for
Yeah.
that trip. I came back numerous times because we had a one of our teams was home ported in Subic Bay in the Philippines, and we would go there a lot to just for R&R. Yeah. Okay, let's get back to
We're
Wisconsin. I mean,
I know.
Wisconsin.
We're
Yeah.
getting really close into Vietnam. We're getting pretty close to that time in your life. I'm a little bit scared. It's definitely gonna be some rocky territory for you. But well, I'm I'm interested. One
Mhm.
of the things that was really interesting when we sat down and kind of let everybody know how we approached this podcast. We got some really serious sit down conversations between each other because I you had expressed how you wanted to write a book, and I'm so much like you in so many ways, and I knew that ADHD was kind of one of the blockers that you were having to starting this book and writing about your life, and also PTSD was another thing that was affecting you. We sat down and we had this really serious conversation one time when I was in Idaho, and I expressed to you how I really felt like we should do a podcast together, and
Mhm.
especially about Vietnam, because I did some research. There's not a lot. There's not a ton about Vietnam where someone actually sat down and told their own stories. And I researched and
Yeah.
I just didn't find a lot. And one of the things that you had mentioned about Vietnam that kind of concerned you, but was also just something that really opened my mind at how PTSD works was you said Vietnam is like a black hole in my mind. I don't I don't and you said I don't really remember a lot. And sometimes things are burped out of that black hole in a dream or in a random memory, and you were saying how you felt like this podcast would help you to make that black hole not a black hole anymore. So,
Right.
and that was
Yeah.
one of the I think that was one of the really big pushes to get this podcast started because I felt like it would be very healthy for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just a thought that I had, but
Right. But we're kinda doing it chronologically, just, as my different locations in my life and, different things that I did, with my mom and dad, and then getting off of myself. I was basically in the military. I was born in the military. My dad was a Marine, born in the Marines. My dad transferred over to the Air Force, so I became an Air Force dependent. Then dad had different locations he went to and just, like, defined my life.
yep,
Travel and relocation and feeling like there's some people there's actually people who are born, raised, and die in the same flippin' town, and I'm going,
yep.
"What? You gotta be kidding me. You mean they never move? No, they
Nope.
don't go no, they stay right there. That's their home, and they
Yeah.
don't they don't go they don't wanna go anywhere else. I mean, they
I
have a
met somebody
chance,
the other day
but
like
they
that.
don't want to go anywhere else. They wanna stay in that town, and I'm going,
I
"That would be
I've,
awesome.
uh I
I
actually
would
met
love
somebody
that."
on our city council here in Arab, Alabama, born, raised, and I think he was probably maybe in his 60s, had been here his whole life, and honestly, you don't see that very much anymore. I was impressed. So, I thought that was pretty interesting, but yeah, for people like you and me, we think that that's very odd because 'cause we've traveled our whole lives.
Yeah, but it I don't I think, but then there's disadvantages to that because if you, for some reason, you get a bad reputation for whatever, then
Mhm.
you're, like, ostracized and looked down
Yeah,
upon and, people laugh at you. You're like a laughing stock, or you're avoided for being weird or dangerous,
exactly.
whereas if you move around a lot, you can reinvent yourself every time you move.
Don't I know that? We would go to, like,
Yeah.
somewhere in wherever, New Mexico, to some pilot and get a an argument with somebody or something, and we'll never see that guy ever again in our whole lives. It's like, doesn't matter,
Yeah.
yeah, you can
So
reinvent yourself every time, it's very
yeah,
true.
I've done that a lot, and it was sometimes it was advantageous that I could assume a new persona, but then other times it was, I mean, terrible. I
Yeah.
had to leave friends that I mean, I had dear friends that I've never seen again, and, like, when I was in Georgia, I had a friend of mine named John David Lassiter. His mom was a 7th grade teacher, and we got together in about the 4th grade, and we were inseparable for, like, 3 or 4 years, because I left halfway through the 7th grade. I never
Oh,
saw him again, but we were good, and we were good students, and we would have competitions on who would get the highest grade in English or whatever. So he kicked my butt in one and some math test, and I kick his butt in English test, but it was just good,
those are good
like
friends.
it was comradeship. I think he was an outcast too because his mom was a teacher and people didn't
Oh,
wanna get on the wrong side of him or, whatever. And I was an Air Force brat, and so I got along with the locals, with the local Georgia boys, and I talked like them. And but I don't think I was ever really accepted. But John David and me hit it off, and we had a great time. You know what our big deal was? We're gonna build a submarine.
oh,
We're gonna yeah, we're gonna get a tip tanks. The T-33 Air Force jet, on each wing, the end of each wing tip was this gigantic fuel tank, probably 15 feet long,
Okay.
2 or 3 foot in diameter, hundreds of gallons of fuel, and we were gonna get one of those from the Air Force. They're gonna make a submarine out of it, and we're gonna explore the 7 seas, and we would get together, we'd say, "Hey, I just got a new idea where we could put the food, over here, and then we can put the fuel over," and, "Oh, yeah, that's good." You know? So we had a good
Oh,
time. We had a good time, yeah,
so much fun.
we were good buds, and then I was talking about being up there in Wisconsin, and, I mean, when I got into East Side High School, I found my niche. I mean, I was in hog heaven, and
Yeah.
because I was in a program they called, college prep, and if you're in a college prep program, you were advanced in whatever. Did you wanna be in English? Did you wanna go into mathematics or whatever? And I wanted to go into science. I thought I was gonna be the next, Alfred Nobel or Albert Einstein or whatever, and so I was gonna be a big scientist, and so they put me into the science, uh, college prep, and so as a freshman, I took chemistry, and as a sophomore, I took physics, and as a junior, I started taking math to go complement the science, and I had biology. But anyway, every year when I was a freshman, everybody in the class was sophomores except me, and the same with when I was a sophomore, everybody was juniors except me. And so
Yeah.
they kinda took me under their wing, these older boys took me under their wing and helped me with my homework, and I'll tell you, I was just man,
Living
you
the
got to
dream,
get that
huh?
mindset like, you're gonna do great things, man. I mean, it's like an ego trip, and you got these older boys that are taking care of you, and showing you how to do these experiments, and it was great, I loved it,
You feel like so
and,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, and I got good grades, and, it was just a really and if I would have stayed there in your senior year, you start taking college courses.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure whether the so I would have if I would have stayed there, I'd have probably would have went to University of Wisconsin, which was right there in Madison, their main campus,
Absolutely.
and, I'd have went and I've been a Badger. And I would have got a probably I suspect if I would have stayed in Wisconsin, I probably would have been either a physicist or a chemist. I wasn't too much into
Yeah,
biology, but I love chemistry and I love physics. And I think I would have probably gotten into that, got an advanced degree, and who
sure.
knows? But
Because
no,
some
it
of the stuff
wasn't.
you're taking
Yeah,
was
but
wild.
it wasn't to be. I
Wasn't to be
was condemned to Arkansas.
darn.
Yeah, I that was, if I could I think if I'd have been in a bigger city, I think if I'd been, like, in Fort Smith or
Um,
Little Rock or something where they had big high schools and it, maybe had like, comparable programs, the college prep programs that I could have probably,
much better.
done well, but I was in this little punky school in Springdale, Arkansas, and,
Trap.
full of chicken catchers and rednecks.
Yeah, there are
I gave
back
up.
then.
I gave up. I said, "No,
Oh,
I don't wanna do I didn't wanna be here." And I just pissed away that last year and a half of high school. I hated it. I was totally I wanted I wa well, I really wanted to get into college. I thought that was probably my, pathway, but well, that was not to be either. I just went in the military.
not till later, at least not till later.
Yeah, and then
So
by the time I got back into college, I was totally burned out, and I was a post-Vietnam vet. I was a freaking
yeah,
mess.
well, that's
That was I I didn't even want I'd gotten where I just was doing it. It was like, uh,
like a
mm,
chore, like a
yeah, it was
really
a
tedious
chore. Yeah,
chore
it
for
was
you.
I didn't't really I wanted to just have an automatic degree or something. I didn't wanna go through the paces, and I was capable of a lot more. I had problems with memory, retention, and, concentration. I couldn't do homework. I couldn't read hardly. I was a mess. I
Yeah.
just kept having not really flashbacks, but just feeling of doom or something. Very a depressed person and,
Yeah, you were
angry.
depressed. That's what it
I was
sounds like.
angry because I thought, Vietnam was just a monkey on my back, and,
Yeah.
it's still there to a certain extent, but I've learned to control a lot of the
Yeah.
things, and, I've got a wonderful family, wonderful wife, and I've got a good life, making a good pension, and, things turned out much better than I thought they would in spite of everything, and I think that if I would have been more malleable or whatever, even in the Coast Guard, I was the young rebel and, hated to take orders. I don't know why I was in the
Ye
military, to tell you the truth, but and I think that affected my, um, chances of getting into officer candidate school, but
Mhm.
I was accepted as a warrant officer, which is very good. Has a lot of advantages. Ended up with a pretty good pension and,
Yeah.
a lot of really good times. Had, I was able to have my kids in, the military hospitals and
Yeah.
or in at least in a military, backed insurance, I guess you'd say. So
Right.
I didn't have to go into debt for the rest of my life just to have a baby,
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it
so
worked out for the best. It
yeah, it
really
did, it did. Yeah, and still like the
did
Coast
good for
Guard
yourself.
and it's a struggle. It's a struggle to go through this ADHD and PTSD and all these other four-letter things, but,
You did really good for yourself.
I'm a
You've
tough
done
old sailor.
Ye
I'm not gonna go down the road easily and accept what psychologists say, "Oh, you should be doing this," and I'm go no.
exactly.
So I 'cause I'm take I'm had therapy for about 5 years. I finally figured out I had PTSD. I didn't even know I had it until I was talking to a veteran. He said, "How you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm okay. I just have a little trouble with memory." And he goes, "Really? What's your trouble?" I said, "I can't remember. I don't have long-term memory is not there. It's just I just got like period like I can remember just like a very traumatic time, but the day-to-day stuff is gone. I don't remember hardly any of the day-to-day stuff I did in the Navy." And he said, "You got PTSD." I said,
Yep.
"What?" He said, "Yeah, you got PTSD." I thought that was for those guys that were, firefights and got all shot up. No. He said, "That's for everybody. Every single veteran in the United States military has PTSD to one extent or another." And he said, especially those who were in combat. "Were you in combat?" I said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "Yeah, you got it. You need to go talk to the VA about this. Don't stop beating yourself up." And this was like in 19, probably, no, it was in about 2010.
Yeah.
I finally found out I had PTSD.
Yeah.
This was, what, 40 years after the war or 50? I mean, it's crazy. I'm going, "Whoa, I've been going through this crap all the time and didn't even know it." And I think that's what destroyed my first marriage, personally.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I
Oh,
think I
well, I mean, really, yeah.
I think I was just pissed off about something, didn't know what, couldn't
Yeah.
remember things. Like, "Eh, didn't do this, didn't do that." I
Yeah.
don't remember that. Sorry. It's not written down or in my phone.
Honestly.
It doesn't exist. And,
Yep.
yeah, so, yeah, I've come a long way.
You have. You've come a very long way, and I think you've done really good for how much you've faced. I really do feel that you've found a place to be. A lot of people come out and they stay bitter or angry. They blame whatever they went through on somebody else, but you've done
Yeah,
pretty good. I feel like you've found your kindness. A lot of these military veterans will be like, you could say like a hard ass, they're like, no, but I think that a lot of stuff that you've been through has humbled you, kept you
and a lot of them are into they're drug
sweet.
abuse addicts, and
Yes. A lot of them end up on the
yeah,
streets,
yeah.
and that didn't happen to you.
My half brother's been married like 4 or 5 times. He's Army
Yeah.
veteran, and I
Yeah.
can think back and rough. They, like you say, there were real hard case, rough around the edges, and not
Yeah.
in any way somebody you'd want to have for a neighbor or friend. They're no,
Yeah.
these guys. Are,
Sometimes you would, but sometimes, no, probably not.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I feel
But
like you've been so blessed, and you do have all of us kids love you so much, and that sometimes I'll meet people who are like, wow, your parents sound like dream parents. I'm like, they kind of are. They're great parents. They're really amazing parents. It's you and mom are just wonderful parents, and you've taught us kids to be great people, and give back to our communities and to work hard. And so you and mom have done a great job.
yeah, it's one that
Got a
I'm
really
just so
blessed
proud.
mom.
I'm so proud of you kids. They're just amazing, amazing human beings, and I think I owe a lot of that. I take some credit for it, but mainly it's your mom,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
reason for that, here's how I figured that out. I was
How'd you figure
married
that?
twice. I dated girls and stuff, around guys, all just normal stuff. But if you look at how my first wife, how those kids turned out, and you look at Emily and my kids now from this marriage and how they turned out and how, things that they've done and accomplished in their lives. And it's a world of difference. And the only difference is the wife. The wife
What?
made they either she destroyed her children or they flourished under her care. You have
No, that's
flourished
how it
under your
goes for
mom's
every
care.
we did. All of
Yeah.
us did. We turned out really
Yeah.
great, good
Yeah. And
kids.
and unfortunately my son's first marriage is now dead, drug abuse,
Yeah.
and his sister is headed down the same road, I'm afraid. She's got some problems, but,
He
I mean,
does.
she's 52 years old. I mean, you can just do so much. You can't she's has her
You
own
can.
thing, and she's like her brother. She's just drifting through life and
Yeah.
not accomplishing anything or being anything. Either, but I will say that Tracy had 2 wonderful kids.
She did.
They're then that
One
I'm
thing she did
sure
right in this life,
I think Josh made the
their dad.
difference. I think he saw them going down the same road as their mother, and he got the heck out of Dodge,
He did.
which is a smart thing
Yeah,
to do.
Josh is a
Get
great guy.
Louisiana is a piss hole. I'm sorry if you're from Louisiana, you got a problem. You got
It's
a long way to go to become normal.
yeah, such a two-sided it's definitely a penny down there, I'll tell you what. It's
Yeah.
2 sides in the same area, and each side is completely different.
Yeah, they had Baton Rouge was so bad. Baton Rouge, where those kids lived, Baton Rouge was so bad, they had to break off the entire southern part of the city and form another town called St. George because it was just hell, and they wanna be part of it. They said, "No, we're not giving you tax
Separate
money
us.
to carry on this stupidity that you're calling a city," and they got the heck out and formed St. George. And by the
What?
way, that's where the Baton Rouge Temple is. It's
I
in
didn't
St.
know that.
George.
It's in St.
So
George. There you go.
there's 2 temples in the LDS Church. There's 2 temples in St. George,
Okay.
one in
I didn't know
Utah
that.
and one in Louisiana.
Oh, okay. Oh, I get it, okay. So, oh, I get it.
Uh,
But, well, we're almost out of time. So I wanted you to tell that the really funny story about the beer heist with the notorious other
Okay.
Charles. Yeah.
Well,
We're gonna leave
me and
we're
old
gonna
Chuck Fessler and me, we were like you were like Vikings or something. I mean, people would see us coming, they'd lock their doors, put their daughters in their bedroom and lock the door. I mean, it was we were terrible. We were in I mean, Chuck Fessler got me smoking, made it um really shoplifting, not a big stuff, but a little thing here and there. And we'd go and just any it just we were not good people. I mean, we're just messing around. But I was fortunate to Air Explorers to kind of keep me on the straight and narrow. But when I was around Chuck Fessler, I was a different person. And it was so we went out in one part of the Air Force base. They had an old area where they had World War II barracks, and they tore them all down, and there was just the foundations left and a bunch of like bushes and trees and stuff growing up. And so we went out there and we said we're gonna have a fort. So we went and found this wooden crate. I don't know where we got it from. It was like two refrigerator crates together. It was huge. And we rolled
Mhm.
that thing over and dug a big hole and stuck the crate down in the hole. And when we go in there, we'd make our plans like we're gonna do this. Yeah. One of the plans that we made up was there was a driving range on the base. On
Okay.
the, west side of the runway, there was a driving range. They had a little shed there with, a beer cooler and other snacks, they could sell to the people in the driving range. And so me and Chuck, we're gonna go get us some beer, and we're gonna get in that shed, and we're gonna get us some beer. And so we went over and, we cased the joint, looking at this, looked at the schedule and figured out when there was gonna people were gonna be there and all this sort of thing, and we were gonna take the beer, gonna break into this place, or take the beer, and there was a manhole right pretty close to we're gonna put the beer down the manhole. And then later on, we're gonna come back and take the beer out of the manhole, take it to our fort and get smashed.
I
And,
can just hear the Mission Impossible theme song in the
right.
background.
Yeah, really, it was playing in the background, yeah, Tom Cruise, you're nothing. You're not you have not met the 2 Chucks yet. Anyway, so we went over there one like a Sunday, and,
Yeah.
we went over there to case the joint again, and it was locked. I mean, it
Oh,
was
no.
a sliding metal thing, and, me and Chuck going, "What? How we gonna get in there?" We're thought, "Well, let's see, we can knock a hole in the wall."
Oh,
So then so we had to redo our plans, and we did for, like, 6 months. That was ate us up. That's all we think about with every time we get together, "Well,
really? How do we get into this place?
what about this, Chuck?" "Oh, okay, we'll try that." It was crazy. Anyway,
Oh, that's so
yeah,
funny.
we never did get the beer into the manhole. Never did.
Ugh, plans are
And
foiled.
I don't know
Ruined.
whatever happened. When I left Wisconsin to go to Arkansas, Chuck Fessler stayed there in Wisconsin. I don't know whatever happened to that boy. I think my mom kept writing his mother, and I think that he was from Kansas, Wichita, Kansas, not his dad was from Wichita, and I think he went back to his father's hometown and got into, like, auto mechanics or something, but I never saw him again. It's a good thing. He was not
Good life.
poisoned.
Yeah.
He was like a poison tree that, you climb up and you climb to the top of this stupid tree and you hit every limb on the way down. Yeah, it was crazy, crazy stuff, but,
I'm sure he cleaned up his act eventually. Maybe smoking probably isn't the best for you. Hopefully he did that. So
yeah.
we'll just hope
Well, I've
hope for the
smoked for
best that he
25 years.
yeah.
To know that. I smoked for 25 years. You hear that, kids? Don't I am a expert on smoking. Don't ever do it. Stop it. All you kids.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, all the kids. Not just my kids, all kids. All kids, stop. Don't get in. Don't go down that road. Yeah,
Stay away.
and it
Stay
had I don't know how much money I spent on cigarettes, but whatever.
Smoking is so expensive. That
Enough
is the most
moral code
expensive
for
habit.
today. Children,
No smoking.
don't let old Chuck catch you smoking.
You'll be the mascot now. Kids, don't smoke. Don't do drugs.
Yeah.
And there's your face. You'll be like the Marlboro Man, but opposite.
Yeah, I did smoke Marlboro,
The don't smoke man.
but I don't wanna do it
What
anymore.
what cigarettes did you smoke?
Marlboro
Was it Marlboro
in Salem.
and Salem?
Yeah,
Wow.
if I started getting, like, congestion and a lot of coughing, I'd stop smoking the Marlboro, start smoking Salem's, and that menthol just clear everything up.
Need
Plus,
smoke
they
cigarettes to
were a
clear
lot
the cigarette
milder.
smoke.
They're a lot milder. Marlboros are pretty
Yeah.
harsh, and, Salem's are like a girl cigarette or something,
It works out. It works out. Well, I'm glad that you quit smoking because it's definitely what has helped you to live a long, healthy, frugal life.
Yes, the longer the better.
The longer the
Got a bucket list. Got a bucket list.
You got a bucket list. Gotta keep that bucket list. We'll stop there for the day. We're out of time. But we just want to thank everybody for joining us today. We had some super fun stories and some fun conversations like we always do. We just love getting on here and just chit chatting, sharing about life. And I think that's what it's all about. It's just sitting down and having a good conversation.
Yeah, I
So,
love these blogs. They're just so much being around you, and it's just fun and to
and
relive some of my
that's
memories, the ones that
that's
I can
right.
retain.
And I'll tell you what, for all those that are watching and listening, and it's funny because I'll just hear it out of the blue. And somebody will say, I love watching those podcasts you and your dad do. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, thank you." So it's just like it's random sometimes. And it happens. It could be just a family member or a close friend or just a random person. Everybody enjoys the podcast. So, and we enjoy it as
Okay.
well. But we hope everyone has a great week this week. Please be careful out there on the roadways. Please like, share, and comment. Share with your family and friends. And we will see you next week.